Hi, welcome to the Crypto Republic. Before we begin today, if you're serious about staying ahead in this once-in-a-lifetime financial shift, make sure you like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic. Hello, XRP Army, and welcome back to the Crypto Republic, your go-to channel for the latest tiny updates in digital assets. Before we get started with today's business, make sure to smash that like button, ring that bell, and subscribe to the Crypto Republic, bringing you updates every day at noon and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is just a reminder. This video is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are living through a moment most people will only understand after it's over. Because what's happening right now with XRP, stable coins, and global liquidity is not a trade. It's not speculation. It's not a theory anymore. This is infrastructure being finalized, ladies and gentlemen. Most people are still staring at price charts. The people building the systems are staring at flow. Today, I want to walk you through the XRP secret almost no one is talking about, the stablecoin shift that quietly changes everything. Stay with me because it's information nobody else is connecting yet. Before we dive in, thank you to everyone who takes the time to like, subscribe, comment, and share these videos. Your engagement helps get this information in front of more people. Your support allows me to keep bringing these deep dive, high-value insights to the crypto community. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Internet of Value, what Ripple was really building. Ripple was never built to be another crypto project. From the beginning, the thesis was bigger. They weren't trying to replace money. They were trying to make money move. Think about email. Before email, communication was slow, expensive, fragmented, and controlled by intermediaries. Then a neutral protocol emerged, and suddenly information moved instantly across the globe. Ripple's founders believed the same thing would happen to value, an internet of value. Let's talk about Rome's roads for a second. 2,000 years ago, Rome didn't conquer the world with armies alone. They conquered it with roads, stone roads, boring roads, expensive roads. Nobody stood around cheering while they built the roads, but once they were finished, trade, taxes, troops, and information moved faster than anyone else on Earth. Rome didn't need to control every transaction. They controlled the roads. And whoever controls the roads controls the flow. Email versus fax. When email was first introduced, it wasn't impressive. It didn't look faster. It didn't look safer. It didn't look profitable. Fax machines were everywhere. And then one day, almost overnight, email wasn't optional anymore. Nothing dramatic happened. It just became the way things worked. Why XRP was never meant to move first. This is where people get frustrated and where patience becomes expensive. XRP was never designed to front-run adoption. It was designed to sit at the center after the system was connected. Banks first, institutions first, compliance first, regulatory clarity first. Liquidity comes last. That's why XRP has looked dormant for years. Let me be very clear here. XRP hasn't been idle by accident. XRP has been idle on purpose. You don't turn on global liquidity engine until you know it won't break the system. Let's talk about Amazon in the boring years. In the early years and days, Amazon sold books. People laughed at the valuation. What they missed was that Amazon wasn't building a bookstore. It was building logistics, warehousing, and cloud infrastructure. By the time the market understood that, the game was already over. Authorities stack who is actually saying this. This is where we need to slow down, because who is speaking matters more than what is being said. Let's start with Sandy Call. Sandy Call is the head of digital assets at Franklin Templeton, one of the largest asset managers on the planet. Before that, she worked at JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citi, IBM. She has served on the DTCC Digital Asset Advisory Board, the World Economic Forum Digital Assets Committee. Our advisory roles connected to the CFTC. This is not a crypto influencer, ladies and gentlemen. This is the financial system. And when she talks about stablecoins, she doesn't talk about price. She talks about business models. She explains that stablecoins alone don't solve liquidity. Institutions want multi-token, multi-border liquidity. Having a native stablecoin on a public chain with independent validators is rare. That's not hype. That's a requirements list. Why they couldn't say this before and why they can now. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. These institutions have been working on this for years. They couldn't just talk about it publicly. Regulatory risk muted everything. While people online argue banks were building quietly, especially outside the US. Sandy herself has acknowledged that work with Ripple continued internationally, even with regulatory uncertainty, stalled things domestically. This isn't new activity. It's newly visible activity. Swift's original problem. Swift didn't succeed because it moved money. It succeeded because it standardized messaging. Settlement still happened somewhere else. For decades, finance accepted that inefficiency because there was no neutral settlement layer. Stablecoins didn't fix that problem. They exposed it. Brad Garlinghouse timing, not speculation. Now let's talk about Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple. Brad has been very consistent about one thing. Crypto goes through cycles, and the next cycle is not about speculation. It's about solving real-world problems. He's publicly stated that regulatory clarity in the United States represents one of the largest unlocks for the entire industry. And here's the key insight. Institutions don't lead regulatory change. They wait for it. Once clarity arrives, they move fast. That's why adoption doesn't look gradual. It looks sudden. Let's talk about the telegraph movement for a second. When the telegraph connected continents, markets didn't gradually adjust. Prices converged. Arbitrage collapsed. Entire business models disappeared. Not because of speculation, but because latency vanished. Chris Larson, Ripple co-founder, has said something that should stop people in their tracks. This wave is different. Past crypto cycles were retail-led. This one is institutional. There's no clean comparison. Not Visa, not Swift, not gold. Because this is the first time a protocol itself can be monetized at the center of global finance. That's why metrics feel unfamiliar. We've never seen this before. The stablecoin problem no one is pricing in. Everyone is talking about stablecoins reaching 1, 2, 3 trillion. But almost no one asked the obvious question. How does that money move? Stablecoins are denominated. Stablecoins are denominated. They sit in silos. They don't solve FX. Ryan Rugg, representing Institutional Bank Realities, explains this clearly. Clients do not want single bank tokens. They want multi-token, multi-border liquidity. Stablecoins create demand for liquidity. They do not provide it. Right now, almost none of this infrastructure is being used at scale. That's uncomfortable, but it's true. Not all stablecoins are the same. They're not interchangeable. USDC, USDT, single currency stablecoins, denominated, wall-gated, efficiency inside a currency, useless across currencies. Bank-issued coins, permissioned, closed-loop, fragmented, multi-tokens, more silos, less liquidity. RLUSD, public ledger, independent validators, connected to real-world rails, not replacing. USDC, USDT, enhancing liquidity systematically. XRP absorbs stablecoins, not speculation, infrastructure physics. The gold standard illusion, ladies and gentlemen. Under the gold standard, gold didn't move every day. It sat in vaults. What moved were claims, paper instruments, backed by trust. XRP isn't gold. It's a settlement rail beneath the claims. XRP has the liquidity layer. XRP is not a store of value by design. It's a liquidity layer. Liquidity layers must scale above the systems they serve. If stablecoins reach $3 trillion, the bridge asset cannot be smaller than liquidity it supports. That's not opinion, that's infrastructure. Math. XRP does not compete with stablecoins. It absorbs them. That's why the system requires neutrality, speed, depth, 24/7 settlement, global reach. There are very few candidates. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hope everybody had a happy new year. We're seeing some very interesting things right now. And some of the big things I'm trying to point out on the phones, even right here to you guys right now. JP Morgan very quietly started discussing and making business deals with G Treasury. They're getting involved with them now, and that's massive. In the west side of the tranche, the western part of the map that we put up, if you're not dealing with some of the big Goliath banks, you're not a real player. And remember, the western side is still going to use debt, still going to use a lot of leverage, still going to use bonds, going to use all these instruments, okay? So that was one of the big reasons G Treasury is such a massive player on the chessboard, okay? And we're going to harp on the fact that JP Morgan is starting to deal with them now and do business with them is massive. It's the future. Everyone's paying attention to the silver markets. Margins being raised. You have China being pushed out of Latin America right now, the entire commodities section over there. And it's no different because what's happening right now is an assault on the US financial system. And it started in October, and it's just continuing and playing out. And every time that the BRICS decide to escalate, the West is going to escalate. Now, this is going to create some of the most unbelievable, in our professional opinion, generational wealth opportunities unfolding in the future. When you look at XRP right now, if you had to look at a chart, you know, it doesn't want to go lower. It doesn't really want to go higher. It's being quietly absorbed. If you look at glass nodes, a lot of the liquidity that's on to be purchased, it's the lowest it's been in a very long time. People are buying, absorbing, and taking it off exchanges. We're looking right now at the future. And the last time we probably saw a commodity super cycle like this was in the early 2000s. Okay, you can check all this. And then, everybody who's in our Patreon, I do the links there. Please come and join at different various levels. We're discussing about this where we do give financial advice. We can't give that here right now, but do click on that. A lot more good things coming out for that. But what you see right now, as things change, and at some point the silver bubble will pop and money will come out of that and flow right back into cryptos. And I keep telling you this, that for institutions to accumulate things, they accumulate things quiet in an orderly fashion until the music stops. Once the music stops, the rip your face off rally comes, okay? This is where we develop the Gucci clarity, the clarity for the Gucciness, okay? You got to stay frosty here and become ferocious with your mindset of your goals, right? Okay? That's why we go over all these things. A lot of people did get cut up like sushi because on one hand, you have the CME basically still using paper and they're using physical over in Shanghai, which is very, very different, right? So why I tell you that XRP is like crude oil, because you need it to function. Crude oil is affected everything that we do, and I believe XRP is going to be massive for everything that's going to be done in the future. No other stable coin, no other bridge neutral asset has anything what they can offer, and they're putting places and things in place because that's very important. So, as long as the 160 level holds, there's a lot of demand between there, and the people are going to be buying into these places, right? So as far as we're concerned, looking at this, you're going to have quiet accumulation before the storm comes. But you got to ask yourself this question: why is all this happening right now? Why, that's part of the recce. Why now? Why is all this happening? This is all happening because the assault on the commodities market, what BRICS did starting in October, coordinated, right? They're not really talking about this because legacy media won't talk about financial what's happening. And we get it, right? But for the people who are paying attention to this, the writing's on the wall. So as they try to change how the U.S. controls the financial markets, the U.S. is going to adapt. And it's very interesting what's going to happen here right now. So you look at the whole map, you look at commodity pricing, right? They tried to undo all that. Were they successful? I don't think so. So when you look at this and look at where XRP is going, it's the future. You can't look at the charts every day for the future. You look at this in quarters. You look at this much further out, okay? There's a difference between an investment, speculation, and day trading, okay? Depending on which category you fall in is what you're going to be looking at, right? You're either a chartist, you're looking at the quarterlies, you're looking at yearly, you're looking at what you're doing and why. But make no mistake about this, right? As we go forward this year and the entire monetary regime changes and we enter the printed to win it phase, things are going to be gobbled up. So, you got to ask yourself, it's the beginning of this year, where you want to go, what you want everything to look at. So you write all these things down and that's where you go with it. Because the beginning of the year, you get to decide what you want to do for yourself and where you want to go. Everybody that we talk to on the phones is accumulating everything they can. Because again, I told you this in other videos. People in the silver and the metals market, they don't want silver in the news anymore. They want it to calm down so they can reaccumulate. They want it to calm down so it can trade so they don't feel like it's going to be pushed lower. The difference between who's right, who's wrong in a philosophical era. I'm not getting involved in that philosophical era. I always tell you on this channel, we don't throw mud on anybody. That's not what we do. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, right? Why they do, who, what, and where. You don't throw mud on anybody. The bigger picture here is what you need to do to take care of your own self and what's good for you and your family and why. Okay. So taking those situations and having your own situational awareness for yourself, Right now, XRP being underneath $2, as far as we're concerned, is a gift for people who can take advantage and it makes sense for their own financial situation, where they can look down later down the road for why they were able to accumulate this, because it's not going to stay like this. Once everything's absorbed, at some point, rip your face rallies do come because of pressure. Pressure is the most amazing force on the planet. It takes a piece of coal into diamond before they have these fugazi diamonds that you can go buy a lab-grown diamond. I don't know why people do that, as far as I'm concerned. But they do, and that's okay because we can't be all things. But I'm going to tell you this in life. If you're the apprentice of all, you're the master of none. And in finance, if you try to be the apprentice of all, master of none. That was one of the largest and most expensive lessons I ever learned in the Florida Mercantile Exchange. And why I say the largest, most expensive, because I got cut up like sushi when I tried to be the apprentice of all and master of none. So you master your trade craft of what you're going to do and why. Okay, and that's why I preach this, and that's why I go off on tangents, yes. Okay, so when you look at XRP, it's the future. Understand this. When I talk about the DTCC, do you understand how important what that really is? That's the derivatives Goliath that lives in the Mariana Trenches, okay? Okay, that's what they're coming after. They're coming after the derivatives market, trying to melt that down, trying to basically undo how everything is done. That's how you take out the West, their financial system, okay? And if you can stop that, and you got to realize how you stop that is innovation. Innovation. I'm always talking about history in these videos. I'm always talking about, in these little side stories about where we were and where we're going and why, okay? Because the next step in the evolution of finance is what we talk about every day. The protocols, blockchain, and XRP and RLUSD, and what they're building is magnificent. Nothing else on the planet exists. No infrastructure exists like that. Come on, they got a prime brokerage. They got G Treasury. They got Rails. They got everything. And they got XRP Army. They got us. So at the end of the day, that's got to count for something, right? But ladies and gentlemen, this is your year to decide what you want to do. So what we help people with financial literacy, take out your journal. Write down what your economic goals are this year for yourself, right? Okay. Journaling is very important in finance, and you could take that after into Excel. Write it down where you want to go. It's super, super important, right? I mean, I had this whole conversation with someone today before about an oil tanker, about an oil tanker's got 20 years of productivity. Okay. It takes 8 years to pay back the note and the next 12 years of profitability. That's why oil tanker owners and shipping owners that own oil tankers, they put their money in a pool system so they can protect each other's profit margins, right? So if an oil tanker, 20 years of useful life, the first 8 year, boom, you're paying back the bank. The next 12 years are cream. Okay, so these guys throw money in together, and then they take the money at 8 years so that his boat goes 12 years, your boat goes 12 years, and they maximize it, right? Why we're looking at this is because I'm trying to run analysis of how much it costs for every oil tanker that's seized, all right, where it goes, how much money that costs, right, and what it does. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I was having a long discussion. At what point do you realize if they can seize oil tankers, they're not going to seize boats that have other commodities on it, silver, resources. So as China is pushed out of Latin America, right, a lot of things are going to change. So look at what happened on our map, right? And again, things have seriously changed since October. Cardano, ADA, boom, BRICS are using that, okay? Monetization of silver, boom. Can't export silver anymore, boom. Look what's happening, right? We're going after crude oil tankers now, boom, okay? The writing's on the wall here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you could be like the ostrich. You want to put your head in the ground? Put your head in the ground. Don't worry, okay? Don't worry if you put your head in the ground. Or you can see this for what it is, where it's coming, and say, you know what? In the chaos, that's when conviction is forged. In the chaos, because the chaos actually leads it to be easier to see where we're going to go and why. Jesse Livermore, when he came home and everybody, when the markets crashed and his wife said, oh my God, are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? I'm hearing these disturbing things on the news. He gave his wife a hug and a kiss, said, yeah, we're going to be okay. He had made a fortune because he followed his discipline. His conviction was forged. That Gucci clarity was there. He knew what to do and why. He didn't panic. He had a plan. So right now you need to formulate your plan, and the plan is evolving. So when the chaos comes, in all due honesty, it's a lot easier to make heads or tails of what's happening and why, because there's got to be clear defined winners and clear defined losers. Some of the people that we talk about every day, you can go look up their exact quote. There's some of the brightest minds in it. Now, you know what? Working for the Mercantile Exchange for the number of years I did, I have spent nonstop talking to people, and what's amazing is everything has to evolve. It has to evolve now, right? And that's why they're going to keep raising margin requirements, because they want the trading to slow down. But looking at that and looking at the DTCC and looking at the avenue of how these institutions see everything, I can't believe how fast they're moving now. And that's why I get so excited. And you've got to be so excited right now to be able to see this and have a chance to be involved in this if it makes sense to you. But when the New York Mercantile Exchange, when it started in the United States of America, was called the Butter and Cheese Exchange. It was designed to protect the farmer, the agrarian-based society. America was a breadbasket of the world, okay? And I always tell you that everywhere I ever go, and for the families that retain us, that we work for, all kind of commodity plays, everything else, we always get to, because we're the remora, we're underneath them, we get to find such unbelievable other delicious nuggets in there that we can basically extract, that we can find alpha. So right now that things are changing and it has to change, you get a chance, we all get a chance to play in this and talk about this for generations to come, how we were able to basically take advantage of the chaos that's there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to hear more of this, please come and join our Patreon at any level. There's a lot more things coming out with that, you know. And again, thank everybody for the well wishes. You know, I'm getting over the flu and the COVID, so I wanted to make sure I had a video for you. For everyone who wanted to talk about a beard, I had a beard like this before I went to have a hot shave, and they still have the pictures in that hedge fund and fund of funds. My face was scalped, right? But what a time to be alive. And you know what? Looking at the charts right now, as long as the 160 level holds on XRP, people are going to keep accumulating. And if you go and look at all the metrics that we always talk about this, right? And I'll have a page up for the metrics. It's phenomenal right now. There's no supply at all these major exchanges. Where's it going? Who's sucking it up? It's being sucked up, ladies and gentlemen. I drink your milkshake. It's being sucked up. Who's sucking it all up? I think we know who is, right? And why? What do they know that we don't know? Like they said all last year, your silver's garbage. It's rubbish. You don't need it. Sell it to me. Sell it to me. Now everybody's fighting over silver because you can't have these AI centers without it. It's a kilowatt war. I keep telling you, look at your electricity bill. Look at all these things. Don't be stupid. Put everything together here. Think about this. Gucci clarity. Gucci clarity. Let's talk about canals to railroads. Canal companies thought they owned trade. Railroads didn't argue with them. They built parallel infrastructure. And once speed mattered more than ownership, the canals became irrelevant. Why this happens once only? This isn't a pump. This isn't a prediction. This is a structural shift in how the world moves, value. Ladies and gentlemen, things happen once in a lifetime to be able to witness and see in a change. And we're witnessing this once a lifetime change right now, right? And that's a very big thing right now. The global financial system rebuild is happening right now. And it's a neutral liquidity protocol deployed at a planetary scale is happening. This is a generational transfer driven by infrastructure. It's not hype, ladies and gentlemen. There's no second act to this story. And I keep telling you this because I'm trying to get you guys to understand. I'm going to do this. Probably some of the videos may just become rants because that's what people have been saying this. I'm trying to let you understand to see what the Mercantile Exchange sees, what the DTCC sees, what they see behind this. They see that they're getting attacked. They're getting hit. Okay, and it's not coming from the Hunt brothers or someone domestically. It's coming from abroad, okay? This is part of a geopolitical attack on the U.S. financial system. They need other tools on the west side of the tranche to counteract this. They need it, right? Bottom line, okay? They see it happening, and it's going to be delivered. So again, you know, I'm going to try to bring this to you and why, and see this through the eyes, okay? I need you to stay emotionless. I need you to stay calm and stay humble. You don't need to convince anyone about this, okay, ladies and gentlemen? You don't need to argue with anyone online. You just need to understand what you're holding and why, okay? XRP wasn't early. It was waiting. And when liquidity turns on, it doesn't turn off. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a speculation. This is the infrastructure logic. And infrastructure always wins. It's everywhere throughout history. I can give you a million examples. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think in the comments below, okay? Do you want me to talk more about the infrastructure? Let me know what you want me to talk more about, okay? You know, with these videos, where you're going, you know? I'd like to hear from you what you think, right? I love interacting. I love the comment section. And our community as it grows. And ladies and gentlemen, we started this a few months ago, right? Over 20,600 some odd people. You know, I love this. I love everyone. I got to streamline when I can come and make all the videos for everybody. But I want to hear from you. I love this give and take. I love our wolf pack as it grows. I do. I really, really do. Have a great day. Stay emotionless. Watch XRP closely. Ladies and gentlemen, this content is for informational entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. Always do your own research and consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions. Remember, the game is changing, and those who understand it first will benefit most. Make sure you're on the right side of it. You have two choices. You can be like the crowd, reacting after the move, rationalizing why they missed it, telling themselves they'll never let it happen again. Or you could be the one who saw behind the curtain, the one who misunderstood the infrastructure shift, the one who positioned early, not randomly, but intentionally. Because some moments are in history are loud, but the ones that change everything are quiet, right up until the moment they're not. And this is one of those moments. Do not blink because the world is distracting you with noise, while XRP continues developing behind the scenes and building momentum in the broader digital asset landscape. Stay sharp, stay informed, accumulate knowledge. Your move now will be remembered. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. This opened your eyes. Smash that like button. Ring the bell. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Turn on notifications. And most importantly, subscribe to Crypto Republic. We break down the global banking trends shaping digital assets today, giving you the context, clarity, and research you can use. Don't just watch history happen. Stay informed, stay ahead, stay in the Republic.